Gymnast superstar Simone Biles shocked fans yesterday by quitting halfway through the team final at the Olympics. She did just the first round, representing, of course, the United States, and then dropped out of the rest, saying it was for her mental health that she needed to quit. For that, she's got a lot of sympathy. And even in this age where, of course, the victim is the hero, a lot of praise. The head of the US Olympic Committee said, "Simone, you've made us so proud. We applaud your decision to prioritise your mental wellness over all else." Now, some sympathy I can understand. But praise? I'm not so sure, and I'll tell you why. Simone Biles is often hailed as the world's greatest ever gymnast, and not least by herself. Last month, the 24-year-old wore leotards at the US Gymnastics Championships, all rhinestoned with an image of a goat to declare that she was indeed the greatest of all time. To hit back at the haters, she said. Plus, she said, she also wanted to send an improving message. She said, "I want kids to learn that, yes, it's okay to acknowledge that you're good or even great at something." Well, maybe I'm too modest a chap myself, but I always thought that modesty was nobler than boasting, but also safer, even for the great, because in the end, we all fail, don't we? We all fail. And bragging too much leaves you a lot more bruised and surprised when you fail too. And I wonder if that's exactly what's happened here. Pride before a fall, and I mean literally. Until now, Biles hasn't failed, rarely fallen. She's won 25 World Championship medals and 4 Olympic golds, and she was the hottest of hot favourites to win the all-round title at Tokyo. But in the first round of the team final, she failed to stick her landing in the vault and completed just 1.5 of the 2.5 rotations, and she got the lowest score of all 6 competitors. She instantly quit, sending the team reserve in to take her place for the rest of the final, and the US team, the favourites, then came second. Biles explained that physically she was in shape. "It's just me in my head," she said. "I have to focus on my mental health. We have to protect our body and our mind." But I was wondering whether that meant just protecting herself from the horror of being beaten. Now, it's true that Biles may have made the right call for a team to step aside and let a teammate with a clear head take her place. People are saying she's selfless. But she did issue another public service message, which was different in tone from the one last month. She said, "Put mental health first. It's okay sometimes to sit out the big competitions to focus on yourself. It shows how strong a person and competitor you really are." And I don't think that's true. Now, be clear, I do not doubt Biles's physical courage. I mean, this is a woman who's won a national title with a broken toe. And to her fans, she was at her greatest when she didn't quit, even then, or when she won other titles with a gallstone. So I don't get why she's just as great when she does quit. Now, I do sympathise with the struggle with the pressure of competition, but that pressure is made greater when you've just advertised how great you are. And the people that I hear saying now how terrible it is that these poor athletes have this pressure, I mean, it's shocking. I have to point out that pressure is part of any competition. If you don't want pressure, don't compete. Certainly don't compete at the Olympics against the best of the best, where pressure is exactly what makes everything there so epic. And pressure is, in fact, often what separates champions from the rest. The greats, they stay cool. Think of Roger Federer, while competitors with the talent to beat them, they choke. Now, Biles has handled such pressure for years and triumphed. This time she didn't, and she stumbled. Now, there's no shame in that. I tell you, thousands and thousands of athletes in Tokyo, they will also be tested both physically and mentally, and they will fail. Fail at least to win a gold. And I'm sorry for them all, Biles included. But I think Biles would have better said last month that she wants kids to learn that yes, it's okay to acknowledge that you're not quite as good or even great at something, which is perfectly okay if you've tried your best and not quit. But that, of course, takes humility. Joining me is child psychologist Claire Rowe. Claire, thanks for joining me. Now, look, Claire, I've got to be front up with you. You probably detected it already. I'm the tough parent in this family here, and my wife is the soft one, so maybe I should be more sympathetic to Simone Biles. But should I be?
Andrew, I completely agree with you. And I think people will be a little surprised at that coming from a child psychologist. Look, I think there's a couple of things here. First of all, I mean, she said you've got to prioritise your mental health and sometimes you've got to sit the big competitions out, end quote. I completely agree with that. She didn't sit this competition out. She commenced the competition. And she stuffed up and then she quit. And I don't know what else is going on for Simone Biles, and there might be other things going on, and I do have sympathy for her, as you do. I do have sympathy, but I don't think sympathy from people is the same thing as praise, and nor it should be. I think from the outside looking in, it looks as if she has thrown a tantrum and chucked in the towel. Now, if there are mental health issues at play, which absolutely there are with high performance athletes, the pressure is enormous, as it is with other areas and sectors of life. Really, the failing is not to pick up on how her mental state was in the weeks leading up to these Olympics. And, you know, all the praise is going to her now for recognising those symptoms and choosing not to press on. Well, where was that recognition the night before the competition or the week before? I mean, the American team would have a team of sports psychologists. She would have her own personal sports psychologist directly to her on the phone, working with her. So where was the recognition leading up? And I think that's, it's a very different prospect to say Naomi Osaka, who we know, bowed out and chose not to compete at things like Wimbledon. I mean, that's different. She let someone else take her place before the competition had started. Simone Biles didn't do that. She commenced the competition. She stuffed up. She didn't handle it. And she decided to quit midway, not in a single solo event, but in a team event. And I was really shocked at this, and really shocked, I have to say, Andrew, at the praise that came out after it. I mean, yes, sympathy, great. Assistance for Simone, yes, absolutely. But I think that's very different to praising her.
I know. I'm seeing headlines that she's the greatest of all time for quitting. I mean, talk about an insight into the culture now of, hero victims. But I wonder whether it's also an insight into another culture of constant affirmation. You're great, you're great, you're great, you're great. I mean, I like being told I'm great, but I know I'm not. And I think it's wise, isn't it, not to boast too much before a competition, simply for a moment like this, because it just sets you up for an amazing failure. And you know it, you feel the humiliation if you don't live up to your pre-publicity.
Well, that's true. That's true. I mean, if you're going to say things like that, and a lot of athletes do, I mean, people like Mundine come to mind, and people who like to say they're the greatest on earth. And that's all part of their showmanship, and maybe that's part of their psychological psych up to a competition that might work for them. But they have to be prepared, working with their team of experts, that if they do fail, how will they handle that? And she was not prepared for that. And maybe that's a failure on her part. Maybe that's a failure for the professionals who undoubtedly would be working with her. My concern, Andrew, is the message that gives. I mean, she gave the message recently that children should know that it's okay to say you're great at things. I don't mind that message. If you're genuinely good at something, own it. I don't mind that. But I don't like the message that if things don't work out, that once you've started something, you're going to quit. I mean, I like the message that you try your best at all times, and if you stuff up, you keep going, particularly in a team sport. And I work with children all the time who've commenced a team sport for the term per se, and things aren't going their way, and we're not winning, and I don't want to play football anymore. And we don't. We continue through to the end of the term, and we finish off the season, and then we reassess from there. But we've already commenced it, so we keep going.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Claire, I'm very glad you've said all this, because I know when I finish the show, my wife will probably look at me, quite sternly and say, couldn't you have been a little nicer? So I'm going to say Claire Rowe agrees with me. Thank you so much indeed.
Thanks, Andrew.